Welcome to Breaking the Silence Mental Health Conversations with your hosts, Kim Olver and Dr. Richard Doss. Together, we'll break the silence and challenge the stigma by speaking now. So, take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's dive in. It's time to start the conversation.
Hi, welcome to the next episode of Breaking the Silence Mental Health Conversations with Kim Olver, counselor, and my colleague Richard Doss, clinical psychologist.
Yes.
And today we wanted to spend some time talking about how to know when you need help, and then how do you get it, and who do you go to? Because there's so many choices out there, and every choice is different for each person. So I thought maybe we could talk about that today. What do you think?
Sounds like an amazing conversation.
We always have conversations, for sure.
Yes, we do.
So I think the first thing I want to talk about is support systems.
Okay.
I have had people come to me in counseling who literally have no one that they're comfortable talking with. And sometimes that means that they don't have supportive people in their life. That could be true. If that's you, then we have other things for you. Other people say they don't have anyone to talk to because they have an image that they want to uphold. Maybe they're a counselor, and so they don't want to talk to friends about struggling with anything because they're supposed to have all the answers. They're a counselor. Of course, we know that's not true, but they have an image to uphold. Or maybe they're a professional business person and they're the answer person other people come to looking for answers, and they have all the answers, but maybe they're struggling with something, so they don't feel vulnerable, or maybe they feel too vulnerable to have that conversation with someone in their support system. Maybe they are the support system for other people and don't want to change that role and become the person who needs the support.
Let me say this. So I'm working with a new client, and his job, his role is to serve and to protect others.
Okay.
And he has an image to maintain, that he has it all together, that he's the one that people go to when they have problems, when they have issues, when there are things going on domestically, when there are legal issues. They go to people like him. All right. And so,
Right.
And there's a long list of those people. So they could be police officers, they could be teachers,
Yep.
they could be soldiers, veterans, firefighters. And one of the things that I think oftentimes happens with those people is that they're told to suck it up. And what that means is be quiet about it and don't let anybody know that you have any problems. In some instances, it's unsafe on the job to say that you have issues because, let's say if you're a police officer and you tell somebody that you have PTSD, the department might want to take your weapon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there are. I mean, we could talk about this for days. There are a lot of professions where, you don't really know if it's safe to talk, and then if you were to talk, to whom would you talk to? I know of one police officer who said that annually they have to go in for a psychiatric evaluation. But one of the things that they know is that the psychiatrist who is doing the evaluation is actually not working in the best interest of the officer.
No, it's about the force and yes, of course. Yeah.
So this is a complicated, I think, a needed conversation.
Yeah. So I think that if you're the person that doesn't have a support system, one of the things that you would want to work on is expanding your support system. And you might need some help with that, right?
Okay.
If you're someone who feels too vulnerable because of your position or your image and it's not safe, then you're probably going to be looking for a professional to talk to, or like you wrote the book, Good Soldiers Suffer in Silence, right?
Yeah.
So you become the person who sucks it up. And when you're sucking it up, yeah, you can probably do that for a period of time and you'll be okay because you're not totally dysfunctional. So you think, okay, well, I can do this. But why would you need to do that when there are people, professional people outside of your system that could see you and help you? Like, that's one of the things I love about the vet center, because you guys aren't keeping records. So it's not like going to someone in the circle of the military who talks to, people in the service. So I really like that about the vet center. The other thing that can happen is you can try doing it yourself, right? Helping yourself. Self-help books are everywhere. I write them, so I know there's self-help books out there. Also, there's research. Every time I say this, I say I don't like to say this because it will keep people away from hiring somebody like you and me. But the research shows that if you journal, you can get just as much benefit sometimes as seeing a professional. So journaling is something that you could do. If that helps you and you feel better, then I say do it, right? You don't have to pay a professional if you're getting benefit from your support system, or if you have a method or a way of doing it yourself and you feel better. Not that you're just stuffing it back inside or denying you're having any issues or pretending, putting on that smiley face like everything's okay when really it's not. I just spent the weekend with someone in my family who within the last year lost her dad, who was her biggest supporter. And she spends all her minutes of every day trying to cheer everybody else up. And I know she's crying on the inside. And she is seeing a counselor and talking about that. So I was really happy about that. But she's one of those people that just put on a good face and just keep moving along, all happy when she's really not happy. So there's a pretending going on there that I think isn't healthy. If you had a medical problem, I don't think that you might put that off for a while. I know people do. But at some point, you're going to feel like you really need to get this attended to. It's the same thing with mental health problems, that if you let it go and you deny it, stuff it, ignore it, any of those things, it grows in intensity, in frequency, and in pain that you're going to experience. It doesn't go away. There are things that need to be resolved. So I would hope that you would know where to turn and who to turn to. So if you're going the professional route, I thought it would be good for us to talk about who you might need, because there's a lot of people out there. There are, there's clergy, right? There's psychologists, there's psychiatrists, there's counselors, there's social workers, there's coaches. There's, all kinds of people out there who advertise, the ability to help you with challenges that you may be experiencing. So how do you know who to go to?
Let me start with this. So more powerful than the clinical approach that a professional may use, more powerful than that is the rapport that you have with the client, or that a client has with their clinician. The idea that you have somebody who's with you, who's on your side, who's supporting you, who's encouraging you, at times who's guiding you. So I like the idea of journaling, but watch this. It can provide a space for me to continue one denial, right? But then the other problem with limiting yourself to journaling is that you might not actually have the answer,
right,
for how to address or approach the problem. So this is kind of how I think about it. If the only person that you're consulting is you, then are you ever really learning anything new, right? So I like the idea of digging deep and having some introspection and trying to figure out who and where you are, or who and where you're trying to go. But it's good, I think, to have somebody to bounce stuff off of. And unfortunately, all helping professionals are not created equally, right? So what you get from your pastor might be different from what you get from your social worker. What you get from your social worker may be different from what you get from your clinical psychologist.
No.
So yeah, so who really answers the question of where do I go, to whom do I turn, and is it okay? Is it okay?
I think about if you go to your GP, for example, and they
GP is?
Or your general practitioner, your doctor, your family doctor, right? And they tell you, oh, I'm concerned that you may have a blockage in your heart. Do you say, okay, check me out, and if I need surgery, you can do my surgery? You don't do that. You go to a cardiologist. You go to a specialist who can handle that particular situation. If you are diagnosed with diabetes, you tend to get a referral for an endocrinologist. If you, my son just this weekend severed his Achilles tendon, so he needs to go to a particular surgeon that does that specific surgery. So I think it's problematic because I don't think people understand the difference in professions. People will ask my family members, my children, my mother. They ask both of these people, what does your daughter do? What does your mother do? My youngest son's answer is, I have no idea what she does. She could be a member of the CIA for all I know. And my mother will say, she talks for a living. That's as much as they know. And I've heard my mother say to me sometimes, well, you're a psychologist. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a counselor, and there's a difference. And even among psychologists, there's a difference between an educational psychologist and a clinical psychologist. One is going to do testing, and one is going to do more like therapy or counseling, like a counselor might do, only with a PhD degree. So it's knowing who the specialists are and what they're going to do.
So let me jump in. So sometimes in group, I'll ask people in group, I say, is this therapy? Is this therapy that we're doing? And it's 20 people in a room. And most people say, yeah, this is my best therapy. I love it. And what I say is, no, this isn't actually therapy. This is therapeutic. In as much as that we're talking about general topics that affect most of the people in the room. Therapy is not until we're talking about your stuff. And as I think about what different professionals do, I don't think everybody really understands the difference between a psychiatrist and a clinical psychologist. Watch this. I've had people complain to me that their psychiatrist wasn't good at doing therapy. And so here's the challenge. That's not what most psychiatrists are trained to do. They are trained to do medicinal therapy.
That's right.
And so as you present with various symptoms, psychological, psychiatric, emotional, medical, they have a medication, that helps to treat those symptoms. But they're not really trained to do therapy. So if you're trying to do talk therapy, the question becomes, so if my wife and I are having issues, let's say infidelity, and she's cheated or I've cheated and we need to try to resolve that. Going to a psychiatrist, is there a medication that they make? And if they make this, I need somebody to let us know, put it down in the comments. Is there a medication that they make that's going to make my partner be faithful? I don't think that medication actually exists. As we talk about the trust that's been damaged in our relationship from infidelity, is there a medication that they make that's going to make that mistrust go away? I think not. And so the question then becomes, what do various therapists do? A social worker. Do you know that there are social workers that do clinical work, that do therapy? There are other social workers that do social kind of stuff.
Case management things.
Case management kind of stuff. Get you some housing, get you some food, get you some clothes on your back. And so, as you begin the search of trying to meet the needs that you might have. Try to be aware. And I think that's a part of what this conversation is. How do you become aware of what people do, what various professionals provide?
Well, yeah, and if I could add to what you said about psychiatrists, because they are the ones that prescribe medication, they also diagnose. If you go to your regular doctor and tell them that you're depressed, maybe having trouble getting out of bed in the morning, or that you're experiencing some anxiety, they may want to prescribe you a psychotropic med, which is a med for something that's emotional. And I would say I would prefer a referral to a psychiatrist so that I can go to the person who does this every day for a living, and they're aware of all of the new things that are out there and the changes that may have been made, the side effects. It's a lot different than getting a medication for an emotional issue from your regular doctor. So even that, when we talk about social workers and we talk about counselors, clinical psychologists, everybody's trained a little bit differently, right? And I know you and I have had this conversation where some people are more, let's say, person-centered, Rogerian. And when you go to a Rogerian, they're going to reflect a lot of what you're saying, identify the feelings that you're sharing, and expect that you'll come up with your own answers. And that's an interesting approach. I like Rogerian kinds of things for building rapport, for really actively listening and not judging your client. But I think some people come to us for answers. They're looking.
I want you to be more directive.
Yes, yes. So then it comes down to, are you an internal motivation person? Are you an external motivation person? Or do you use some combination of both, right? And maybe the average person who's seeking counseling or therapy wouldn't understand the distinction between those two, or those three possibilities. But I think it's important for you to be an educated consumer, so that if you have the belief that the reason you do what you do is because of what's happening inside you, you'd want to go to an internal control helping professional. If you think all of your problems are happening out here in the world and you're fine and everything else is messed up, you might want to see somebody who, maybe a social worker, maybe somebody who is more prone to look at external factors as motivation. So that's another level of education to think about as you're thinking about where you're going to get help. And when do you know it's a good time to seek help, Richard? That might be a question for you.
Yeah. How bad does it have to be?
I just want to say, if you have any topics or areas that you would like Richard and I to focus on in future videos, just drop a comment here. Send us an email at the address that's on the screen.